Hi and welcome to Groschel Homestead. Today we're going to be talking about maple syrup. We make this in the springtime here on the homestead. A lot of people just think it's just for your pancakes. However, I don't like maple syrup on my pancakes. I prefer just either chocolate chips or blueberries or even jam. So I'm going to tell you all about some benefits and different uses for your maple syrup. Did you know maple syrup has some nutritional value? Unlike corn syrup or fake maple syrup that you find in the store, or even some processed sugar, there are actually some antioxidants and things like that, such as zinc, magnesium, and calcium, potassium. So great tip for that. I like to replace it where I would use regular white sugar. So if you're a coffee drinker, instead of using white processed sugar, add some maple syrup in and your cream on top of that to give your coffee not only some great flavor, but also a little bit healthier option. So one of my favorite uses for maple syrup is going to be making a maple dark cocoa to drink. I'd love to have this during the winter months or cooler fall days. So I'm going to make that with you today. So all you need is just a small little pot. I'm gonna make just under 1 cup of milk since I'm just making it for myself, but it's usually 1 cup of milk. I'm just gonna add that to your pan. And we want a little bit of spice in there, so I'm going to add just under 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. If I was making the full recipe, I would add the full 1/8 teaspoon. So 1/8 teaspoon cinnamon. Then of course we want the dark hot cocoa. I don't want it as sweet. Our maple syrup's gonna add plenty of sweetness for that. So I like to get the Hershey's Special Dark Cocoa Mix. And you're gonna do about 1 tablespoon of that. Now I'm, again, doing just under that recipe. So we are going to do just shy of 1 tablespoon. In there. And now comes the good stuff, maple syrup. So we're going to do about 1 tablespoon maple syrup. The recipe does call for 1.5 tablespoons if you're using a full cup of milk. So I'm going to go just underneath that. And add that in. Maybe a little bit more. Doesn't hurt. Once I get that all in there, you're just going to stir it up. So I'll just take a simple fork and you're just going to mix this all together. It won't fully incorporate until you get it warm, but we're going to bring it over to the stove and heat it up. So I'm going to have this on the stove. I'm just going to keep stirring it. These little chunks of the cocoa will start to dissolve as well. You do not want to bring it to a boil. You just want to warm up your milk. So just bring it to the temperature that you would like. A little bit cooler if you're feeding little ones. A little bit warmer if it's for yourself. So now I have my pot and you're just going to grab your favorite mug. So I got my appropriate maple leaf mug here. And then you're just going to pour it into your glass. So delicious looking. And then you can top it off with a few marshmallows if you like, or just enjoy. So I love looking through my grandmother's and great-grandmother's recipes on my side, my husband's side, really any old recipe I can get my hands on. And I started to see that the old timers had maple syrup in almost every one of their cake or cookie recipes. However, it was a pinch of this, a handful of that. So it took me a little bit digging and figuring out, playing around with it. And I found out some of these dishes were really great and that we've been missing out using white sugar. So I started playing around and I came up with a few of my favorite recipes. One of them for fall time is a spiced donut. It does have some white sugar in it. It calls for brown sugar, but whenever you see a recipe for that, you could take your, say, a cup of white sugar, and then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. If you mix that well enough together, that can replace your brown sugar. Now, if you come across a recipe, like I'll take the Toll House chocolate chip recipe, like right on the back of your chocolate chips, and it calls for, again, brown sugar or white sugar. You can take, say, if it's a cup of white sugar, and you can replace that with a cup of maple syrup. Now, I did notice when I baked these up, they're a little bit more fluffier than your traditional cookie, and they're even better the second day. So a few other things I like to play around with is for the holidays, say a holiday ham. One of the great recipes I kind of stumbled across was you're going to take 1 can of your sliced pineapples. You're going to place those on top of your ham. I like to use my ham in a crock pot and cook it so it just cooks all day. I can forget about it. So you're going to place your pineapples right on top. Then you're going to use about half the cup of juice. Then you're going to sprinkle on, I think it's just about like a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and then 1 to 2 tablespoons of either Dijon mustard or honey mustard, and then about a cup of maple syrup. So I like to save that for last, drizzle it on top. I usually get the spiral ham so it kind of sinks down in all the layers, and then I just let that go for about 4 hours on high, and then serve it to my family. All the juices in the bottom, you just drain that out, add a little bit of flour, you whisk it in, and you can get a great gravy out of that. In the summertime, one of my favorite uses for maple syrup is to make a great refreshing drink with just maple syrup and lemons. So you're going to take about a 1/2 cup of maple syrup and about 3 cups of water in any kind of glass. These are fun little glasses we keep from the carnival. And then about 1/2 cup of fresh squeezed lemons. This is very important, the fresh squeezed lemons. And then you're gonna take another lemon and do nice slices for a garnish and kind of to have it steep in your lemonade. I put that all in a pitcher. I add some ice. You can serve it just fresh like that, or you can pop it into your refrigerator for later in the day after you're outside gardening or mowing the lawn. You can come in and enjoy a great refreshing glass of maple lemonade. Another great use for maple syrup, especially for your kiddos, is to add it to white milk. Just like you would Hershey syrup or Ovaltine, add some maple syrup, stir it up. You can always add more depending on how much maple flavor you would like, and enjoy. Another great option that's a favorite of my children and my husband is adding maple syrup to your ice cream. Thank you for joining us at Groschel Homestead to learn uses of maple syrup besides just on your pancakes. And remember, whatever your recipe is calling for, however much sugar will be how much you replace with maple syrup. And keep an eye out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for more recipes. See you next time.